Howdy everybody, Steve here, KM9G. Today, my friend Other Andy sent in the Rock 5A computer. Rock 5 Model A. Rock 5 Model A from Radza. There's a lot of cool features on this computer. Let's get started taking it out of the box with all the bits that he sent in with it and putting it all together. And this is from allnet.china, where all the best stuff comes from. Well, that was great. Oh, there's a whole bunch of little stuff in there. What all do we have? I'm gonna wind up putting this stuff back in the box so I don't lose it. That would kind of stink. All right, so let's get the stuff out of the box so that we know what we've seen and what we haven't seen. We've got some wires. These are antennas, antenna wires. So that was Wi-Fi. Huh. Wi-Fi 6 right, version 1, Wi-Fi 6 left, version 2. Inside of this bag is another bag and some screws. I don't want to lose those screws. This is the Radza, RADXA wireless module A8, RTL 8852BE. So it does Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, MIMO, and it is a PCIe to USB interface. Interesting. And if you're playing along at home, the connector on this says it's an M.2 E key. USB 3.0 eMMC reader. All right, Raphael, just for you, he doesn't like my everyday carry utility tool knife. It's not sharp enough. Let's get out the Moore & Eve. Moore & Eve. This one should be sharp enough. All right, can't use a knife to build fences. That doesn't work. And what do we have in here? In all of its ESD bagged goodness. That's exactly what it said it is. It's a USB eMMC device, USB eMMC reader. So you put the eMMC there, and then you can plug it into USB and do all your USB awesomeness. A PD 30 watt for single board computer. This is nice because they stopped selling things and giving you the USB charger with them now. And the fact that this is 30 watt is going to be fantastic. It was a very tight box. All right, I am going to leave the wrapper on this because this is not mine. That would be rude to take that off. But US plug on one side, 30 watts, it says input 100 to 240 volts, 50 or 60 hertz, 1 amp, output 5 volts, 5 amps, 9 volts, 2 amps, 12 volts, 2.5 amps, 30 watts max. This could be a little QRP radio power supply too. Nice. So 1 USB port. Would be nice if it had like 2 or 3 or something on there because there's plenty of power to go around. A USB-C to USB-C cable. I'm sure this is exactly what it says it is. Oh, that's a beefy cable too. That's a serious, look how thick that thing is. That's a serious cable. And it's purple on the inside. And I like how the sun came out just in time. Oh, USB-C. Okay, enough of that. All right, so that's all the accessories. Now to the main event. Oh, more little accessory boxes. Interesting. This says it's the eMMC module, 64 gigabyte. This is going to be so tiny, it's going to fall in the grass and I'm never going to find it again. Well, that's not too bad. And it's kind of a little interface too. So it's an eMMC chip and then it's got a packaging header to make it easy for you to connect with. Excellent. Put that in the box O accessories. And just so we don't lose it, I'll put it back in its plastic case. Antennas, well, antenna and wiring adapter. Coax and SMA adapter. We know what antennas look like. This is a fan and heatsink pad. There's the heatsink pad, the heat spread pad, fan. Oh, there's a little heatsink on there too. Okay, so the heatsink pad would go on that and then that would sit on the main chip and that would plug into the board. Oh, there's a lot of little pieces on this one here. So this is a nice acrylic case for our new single board computer. Bag of standoffs and screws to assemble it. Finally, the moment we've all been waiting for, the single board computer itself. This is a Rock 5 Model A 8K credit card size ARM PC. Quad Cortex A76 plus Quad Cortex A55 processor. Mali G610 MP4 GPU. Dedicated 6 TOPS NPU. Dual HDMI 8K at 60 frames per second and 4K at 60 frames per second. Nice. Supports Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.2. It does support it, but we got extra pieces in the box up there as you guys saw. So it supports it, but it's not there. So it doesn't say it's included. 1000 megabit Ethernet with PoE support, MIPI CSI camera, and MIPI DSI LCD. So that's kind of the standard stuff that you've had on Raspberry Pis for a while. And then get started, wiki.raxa.com/rock5a. And there's a QR code there that's probably completely imperceptible. I don't know that the printing has that kind of high enough DPI. It's a conductive grid bag. I don't want a bag that's conductive. I want a bag that's actually specifically not conductive. Oh, that's a neat little form factor. It looks like it'll line up with the typical Raspberry Pi 4 cases. That should be fine. Oh, that's nice. There's your header. And that, there's like a little solder blob thing there. Look at that. We'll get rid of that. I put it in the box over there. So we've got memory chips, Micron technology, the Rock chip itself. This is the CPU. We've got an RTL chip down there. So does it have Wi-Fi built in as well? Or is that just, that's probably just the Ethernet chip. These look like standard Pi GPIO headers, and this is another Pi connector. There's your fan power connector. All right, let's start getting it assembled. I like that it's got a dedicated fan power connector. All right, that's all powered up. Don't tell Andy that I put all of his bags back inside of this big green box. A top plate, a bottom plate, a side plate, and then other side plates. I would say that fan hole is just a little off center. Oh, that didn't work out very well. Ah, okay. I thought I broke the case for a second. It's just the, there's plastic on these pieces. Nope, I did break the case. I owe Andy a case. I thought it was just this neat translucent effect. Okay, and now what we've learned is it looks like all the side pieces go together first, and the big teeth go down. So side piece, side piece, side piece, side piece. And there we go. Just came apart. So the first thing I would do is I would look for a better case than this. I mean, it's a puzzle. It only goes together one way, but wow. I guess it goes together more than one way because these two sides need to be switched. No, the two ends need to be switched. Okay, that's a little bit better. Let's try and figure out how these standoffs go. Okay, so I got my Kaiweets toolkit now so we can get this project done properly. And I also got my quirky QRP mat, so it makes it less likely that I'm gonna lose pieces because there's some small pieces that we're working with here. My guess is that these screws are going to go through the bottom of the case. And these are going to go, we've got 4 big standoffs, 4 little standoffs, 5 screws. Oh, they think I'm gonna lose one. 4 of those standoffs. So I'm going to assume, again, I'm gonna use the big standoffs into the little standoffs. Since I'm screwing together a circuit board, I'm just gonna make these finger tight. There we go. Zoom you guys out a little bit to make it a little easier to see what's going on here. Nice. So the screw holes don't line up because the bottom plate needs to be flipped over, I guess? I'm not liking this case, Andy. Yeah, it doesn't line up well. It lines up better like this, but I'd expect those to be sticking through proud. Oh well. It is sticking through enough to get the job done. Let me get out my Phillips head. And again, we're screwing in this case, we're screwing into acrylic, so I don't want to screw down too tightly, just enough to hold it in place. So I really could use more screws, but they didn't give me more screws. So the choice would be to put standoffs on top, or go to the hardware store and get some more screws. But when we're ready for that, we'll just put the standoffs on top. For now, I need to install the Wi-Fi antenna and the Wi-Fi card and a whole bunch of other stuff. All right, here is that Wi-Fi module that we looked at earlier. 2 antenna connectors on it, but we only got 1 of these jobs. So we're gonna try just using 1 of them. And they're labeled 1 on the inside and 2 on the outside. So we're gonna use the inside one. Let's find those screws. And again, they gave me 2 screws, 1 extra in case I lose one. Is that foreshadowing? And that's the wrong screwdriver tip, but I've got plenty, thanks to my Kyrie's toolkit. That's better. Oh, that worked out really well. That was just soldered onto the board, and that was not any torque at all. All right, that's gonna be fun to fix.
Many hours later.
That was not fun at all. It was a surface mount nut soldered on. Why? Why would they do that? Anyway, it's done. I fixed it. It's back together. I needed some flux and a jeweler's loop and 7 hands, but we got the job done. Fantastic. So I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna put this SMA connector onto antenna number 1, and I think this is like a micro UFL connector or something, if I'm correct, which I don't think I am. And they're just supposed to snap right in place. And it's not wanting to snap right in place. Let's try connector number 2 then. Let's check the other antennas. Oh, these are different connectors, that's why. So before I go too crazy with that, am I missing something entirely as to where that connector goes? I don't think so. This is O2, ouch. And this is O1. So I'm gonna put this on 1, I'm gonna put that on 2. Those connectors were different, which is why that wasn't working. And to be honest, as a ham radio operator, I didn't like the idea of having an antenna port and no antenna connected to it. So I was gonna do the second one anyway. All right, that's on, that's better. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, that was a pain in the butt. Both with the screw to hold down the M.2 board and putting the 2 antenna connectors on, and the fact that they gave you an antenna connector that you can't use. Oh, fun stuff. Okay, so that's all of that. The next thing I need is the eMMC, which just my luck probably goes under the Wi-Fi board. Looks like it's got an SD card slot. Do we not need the eMMC either? Oh, it's already got an eMMC on it. That's this one here, and I can't read what size it is off the top of my head there. So we'll play with that a little bit more too. All right, I gotta get some software ready for this so it will boot up. What I understand on the website is that the RockPi came with a 16 gig internal storage device, and Andy sent along a 64, and I think I already opened that. I did. It was just such a sharp knife that I couldn't even tell that it was cut. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna install the 64 gig module inside. So let's get that mounted onto the USB reader, and there's some orientation to it, but is there no footprint orientation on the board? There's an ever so subtle little hint maybe. Does it only fit? It probably only fits one way anyway. Let's try it like that. Okay, that didn't seem easy. Let's flip it around 180 degrees. That seems easier, but still not easy. Okay, that seems impossible. So it definitely goes this way. Yep, there it is. All right, if you need to use force, you're doing it wrong. That's why I tried it a couple of different ways, and that, the little notch, goes on the bottom corner away from the USB 3 connector. All right, this was a fun experience. My recommendation currently is, if you want to play with it and you got some disposable income, have at it. It is a screamer. The performance is fantastic. This is currently the best performing single board computer that I have in my hands, because it's not in my possession, it belongs to Andy. Here's where things went a little sideways. The acrylic case that they sent, I realize it's a cheap acrylic case, but it could have at least been suitable to task. You could not get the whole thing assembled, so why bother? So I didn't bother. I put the case back in the box and I moved on. The eMMC card that was installed from the factory did not work at all. It shows up, the eMMC reader USB card shows up just fine. When you attach the eMMC chip to it, it shows up as no drive. So I've got a controller with a drive that can't be seen by Linux and it can't be seen by Windows. So that's a no-go. The 64 gig eMMC that he had purchased to go along with it, this works fine on the reader. So it's not the reader that's the problem. It works fine, most of the time on the underside of the Rock 5A. However, the connector isn't strong enough to keep it connected. So if you're going to use this, glue it down somehow, tape it down, put some rubber cement on it, I don't know, do something so that you can keep it locked in place, because it literally fell off twice with nobody touching it at all. And that caused the OS to crash, as you might imagine. The first time was during its first boot. I thought it was doing like a file system expansion or something. No, the Rock 5 folks haven't thought about the file system expansion. It just boots straight up on the first boot, and that's an exercise for you, which is fine. I can do that. However, there's been, what, at least a decade of Raspberry Pi experience laid down about how to do this kind of stuff. So I was kind of disappointed in that. I expected it to be a little more refined than it is. I get it. Get a product out the door, MVP, minimum viable product. We're shipping, people are buying, we're happy, we'll make it better on the next batch. I understand that mentality, I appreciate that mentality, because otherwise you'd never make a product. However, you don't want your hard disk falling off of the computer while it's running. And some other cut your teeth kind of things. The SMA antenna has the wrong kind of connector on it, so it can't be used. The Wi-Fi card has two connectors. I wouldn't use a single antenna anyway. That's kind of a problem. I see no other place on the board to connect the SMA antenna at all. So that's back in the box, done. We do have these two little patch antennas that are floating in the breeze here. You can stick them onto some kind of surface. However, that makes it so that you can't pull it out of the case anymore. Probably a better solution, probably a better antenna, not as well refined. I get it. So what did I do to get the thing running? It has, on the back here, right underneath my finger, an SD card slot, and it will boot off of the SD card. So I did the old Raspberry Pi trick of making up an SD card and booting it off of the SD card. There is a fat partition on the SD card, so you can pre-configure this thing so it boots up on your network, attached to your Wi-Fi, SSH enabled, ready to roll. So that's a plus. The thing is a screamer in performance. It's kind of ridiculous. Why not have 4 USB 3 ports? Why not have some USB-C ports there? Why? I don't know. Gigabit Ethernet, I've got no way of testing that. The Wi-Fi chip gets stupid hot, really stupid hot. The fan never came on. I looked up on the forum. There wasn't any information about how to turn it on. I did see a couple of notes where it said the computer runs fine without it. Fans installed, Andy, have a blast. I ran the computer all the way through all of its benchmarks and a couple of operating system upgrades, and the fan never came on. The system never throttled itself that I could tell in terms of external appearances. And since the fan didn't come on, I can't imagine it would have throttled itself. So either the code is disabled or it didn't need it. When I did the OS updates, it recompiled the kernel as part of the update process, and then it left out support for the Wi-Fi. So you have to make sure that you're prepared for that before you do the update. I didn't think that would happen, so I wasn't prepared for it, so there was a problem. Raspberry Pi prices are coming down. Yes, this is faster, but buggy. The Wi-Fi card being on a slot means that you can remove Wi-Fi if you don't need it. You can probably install another SD card, SSD drive there, or you can install a cellular modem there instead, if that's your jam. So it does have some expansion. I like that. The eMMC connector on the back would have been good if it did the thing. It didn't do the thing. It does have a power on off switch on the side, which I like. It's kind of that standard ATX style where you have to hold it down for 10 seconds for it to power off, and then you have to press it again for it to power on. It has the 2 HDMI, mini HDMI connectors on the side of it, or are those micro HDMI? I don't know. They're tiny HDMI connectors. It's supposed to be able to do 2 8K screens, which is fantastic. I don't know what the GPU performance is. The LEDs, for some reason, factory default is to have the blue LED blink at you all the time. I'm sure there's a way in software to turn it off, but the factory default of having this thing do blinks all day long, not like activity blinks, it's just blinking. I think that's bad news. I think that needs to be addressed. You know, when it first boots up, turn that off. And yeah, you can do it inside of a script, I'm sure, but it shouldn't be that way by default. So Andy, I appreciate you letting me borrow this and play with it. It was a fun experience for me. I think it might be a frustrating experience for a new user who's not experienced with these kinds of things. I literally accidentally discovered that the MMC chip was falling off the back and then couldn't get it to stay on, and I wasn't going to do any more modifications than that. I'm sure there are better cases out there, It does look like it's the B plus format from Raspberry Pi, so a Pi 4 case should fit just fine. I don't know where to leave this with you guys though. I don't know if this is a fantastic value or a big problem. So overall, every feature you'd get in a Pi 4, more performance, more upgradability, more storage, $99 price tag. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing because Pi prices are coming down finally. So you guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. There is a video right over here I think you'll enjoy next. Thanks for being awesome. I'll be over there waiting for you.